Welcome, my friends. I'm Dave Champion, and this is my co-host, Bill Carns, and together we are totally unprepared.
Yeah,
yes, you're unprepared. You know, it's a really good thing that we have a sharp engineer in the engineering booth, because if he accidentally left the mic on when the credits were rolling,
the warm-up and the kickdown,
we would be in bad shape.
You'd be hearing that sound and all beep beep and just stupid.
There's always some dialogue going on here while you're watching the credits and the intros and the outros. We're always saying something.
As long as the cameras aren't on.
A couple of things to talk about in our opening segment. First one is the principle, the concept, which has been established in statutory law, especially at the federal level, but a lot of states and counties and so forth have emulated it. And that is the principle, and I know you feel you have some very strong feelings about this. That's a rarity.
Yes, I do.
On the subject that the government, whether it's administrative, whether it's law enforcement, what have you, the government is free to lie to you nonstop.
And that includes keeping information from you.
Yes. Not only the positive step of lying, but the passive step of retaining information that you should have. The government is free to do that all they want. There's very rarely are there any consequences. Only in very narrow areas of operation of the government there are any consequences for a government official doing that. But if you or me tell a lie to a government official, we get put in a government cage.
Yeah, virtually all. You have a text message.
I have a text message.
Virtually all government forms tell you that you're signing under the penalty of perjury.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because that's also a lot of forms that the government has to fill out. Like when police, if they do an arrest, they have to do a narrative on the elements to the crime and how the suspect that they just arrested met them. And they sign that under the penalty of perjury. Yet they lie on those things all the time. And when was the last time, if ever, you've seen a cop busted for perjury or even gotten in trouble for perjury for making a crappy arrest, like in my case?
Yeah. You know, even when it has become, we'll use your example with the law enforcement. And then I want to share another one. Even when it has become crystal clear, for instance, an officer makes characterizations in his written report on what he did and what he said, or the circumstances that led up to the use of force or an arrest. And then either body cam footage or bystander footage reveals that the officer blatantly lied. Okay? You will occasionally see the agency take some action against the officer. I have never once seen a DA haul that officer into court for perjury. Never once. I think I saw some research done by some attorneys several years ago that said that when government officials commit perjury, they take an oath, they sign a declaration under penalty of perjury, what have you. When government officials commit perjury, they're prosecuted less than 3% of the time. And that's government across the board, less than 3% of the time. Where is the integrity in government? Where is the accountability in government?
We're the masters, they're the servants, right? But somehow or another, the servants passed a rule that they're allowed to lie to the bosses, but the bosses can't lie to them. Imagine running a business like that. Could you imagine that? Okay, I'm operating my business and I've got, my managers, and then you've got all of the workers and they're doing some sort of factory work, let's say. And they're allowed to lie, cheat, and steal all they want. And we can't stop them. Now, we're supposed to be able to stop them. I tell you, Dave, where we have really, really gone awry is with the screwing around with the grand jury system to where it is not as originally intended. As originally intended, we should be able to take good information, at least probable cause information, if not proof beyond a reasonable doubt information, to a sitting grand jury of a crime committed against us, be it from a government official or whomever, and the grand jury has the capacity to look at that and decide if this government official or whomever will stand trial on this. And we don't have that. It's interesting that we have right there in the Bill of Rights that you will not stand before a capital crime unless first that capital crime has been gone through by a grand jury. Now, we don't even have a grand jury here in Nye County. There's very few in the state. But people are tried for capital crimes having never seen a grand jury in violation directly of the Constitution and their own rights in the Bill of Rights.
Yeah. And of course, their attorneys never raise it because, well, that's just not done.
Yeah.
That's not how, that's not how the system works.
That's a crap answer from a crap attorney.
Now, you know my history with the income tax and the IRS and so forth. And I cannot tell you how many times I have sat down, just like I'm sitting here with you, across the table from a revenue officer or revenue agent working for the IRS, and I have a pre-designed form, and it said, whether it be me or somebody else, that this person, fill in the revenue officer or revenue agent's name on the line, has gone through all of the regs, all of the statutes, all of the Treasury decisions, all of the Treasury orders, and looking at the facts of my case or your case, what have you, that having evaluated all the statutes, all the regs, all the Treasury decisions, all the Treasury orders, they have determined that Bill Carns, as an example, is a person that, given the facts in this case, has Congress's statutes have imposed a tax on Bill or otherwise made Bill liable. Then there's a line with signed under penalty of perjury. And I cannot tell you how many occasions I've put that in front of a revenue agent or a revenue officer and said, would you do me a favor and go ahead and sign that? I'm not signing this. They're looking at somebody, they're saying, you owe us $37,000. Well, good, sign under penalty of perjury that you've done your job, that you've made a legal determination based on the facts as they fit within the regulations and so forth, that this person the tax has been imposed on them, that they've been made liable.
Have you ever had a single one?
No, never. But and again, that goes to the lack of accountability, lack of integrity. They say whatever they want to say, no matter how false it is, no matter how much it's contrary to the evidence and the facts and the law. And it's done all the time, but I brought up the IRS because probably that is the way the IRS goes about business 99.9% of the time, is they make allegations and they refuse to sign under penalty of perjury because they haven't done it. It's like their computer says X, Y, and Z, all right, let me say Bill Carns owes me all this money. What? Because, computers don't make mistakes.
Oh, of course not.
Yeah, and the computers, what's the old adage? It goes back 20 years ago about computers. Garbage in, garbage out.
Jeez.
So if they're getting bad information coming in the front end, well, what's the determination going to be on the back end?
I thought that phrase came from politics. Now, I've got to say that my thinking on this is all of these laws need to be switched and changed around. I believe if anybody who is a government employee, government agent, elected official, representative of an elected official, or an agent or employee, blah, 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 get the whole gamut covered, whatever that vernacular would be. If they ever purposely are found to have lied or given only partial truths without all of the pertinent information, which was available at the time, knowingly done that, that they'll be guilty of whatever it is, lying to the public, whatever we would call this crime. And if they are found guilty, whatever the sentence is handed out, be it a fine, imprisonment, or both, it's automatically triple whatever's handed out. If they're told 2 years and $100,000 fine, it's 6 years and $300,000 fine. No parole, no probation, and they cannot ever again. They lose any tenure that they've got. They lose any retirement they may have coming to them, any benefits. It's all gone. It's all erased. And they can never, ever work for any sort of, you can't even go in and volunteer at the library from that point. No sort of government involvement at all. Nothing.
I've given this a little bit of thought, the penalty part. And here's the model that I think would perhaps be appropriate and useful.
Minefield? Walk through a mile-long minefield?
Yeah, it's like, if the bomb doesn't go off, you told the truth, right?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
No, here's what it'd be. If the jury finds that they intentionally lied, or that they knew that, we'll call it exculpatory information was available, and they did not provide it, that is a felony. and whatever the sentences it is. But it's a felony. You're done. Okay, and you can never work in government again. If it is found that they lied, but that the jury cannot find that it was like premeditative and they knew, it's simply they told you the facts were X when they were Y, okay? But the jury can't prove that they knew. That's a misdemeanor. Okay? Where the administrative punishment, can you work for government or not? I'll leave that to others. And the last category would be if the person gave out false information, but the person can convince the jury that they absolutely did not know that it was false information when they gave it, then there's no penalty. They're guilty of nothing.
Right.
Okay. Because we've all been misled by somebody else. Mm-hmm. Okay. So,
but that also leads to setup. Like, let's say you work in the government and so do I. Uh-huh. You've got to go give a briefing. I give you some bogus information on purpose because I don't much care for you or the job you're doing. You give it out there, now you're going to get a misdemeanor if you're called on the carpet.
But based on my testimony then, I'm defending myself by saying I got the information from Bill Carns. Now you're going to trial.
Right. Good
so
enough.
Defending myself indicts you.
Yeah, good enough. And man, this government that we've got, and I'm talking from local on up.
Oh yeah,
it all needs to be reworked because it doesn't work for us anymore.
No,
and it hasn't worked for us in a long time.
You know, you remember the incident probably 2 months ago now, where the officer, someplace I think back towards the East Coast, fired 8 shots in the back of a non-armed fleeing guy. Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. That is the only. This is the really pivotal part. The only action by cops that in my sphere of people I know, and I know a lot of cops, a disproportionate number of people I know are cops, it is the only one that received universal condemnation. The only action. We see how many of these videotapes of all sorts of...
Regularly.
Yeah, hundreds every week. And that's the only one. Does that not tell us we have a problem?
We'll certainly talk more about cops in this episode, and we'll be back after these messages.
I'll tell you that we're not on the... Oh, we're not on the air. And it's now time for... What is up with people who don't do condemning people who do?
You said doo-doo.
Yes.
Beep.
This is something I've noticed, and I'm sure you have too, for a very long time, and it's particularly annoying to me, given my history and background. But there is this, I think it's amplified by social media, and you'll probably agree with that. But when a person is trying to speak their mind or move an agenda forward or represent a point of view or take an action that they consider to be beneficial, and somebody who's doing nothing but sitting on their ever-widening ass on a couch or sitting in front of a computer, that person begins to criticize or condemn the person who's actually being active in the system. I've got a couple of examples I'll share with you to illustrate what I'm talking about. Recently, within the last, I guess, 5 or 6 weeks, DaveChampionsLiberty.com went active. And we have a whole plan to make the site productive and spread the message of liberty. Part of that is to spread, you're probably familiar with the term memes. It normally has a photograph and some sort of a quote. And so to promote not just DaveChampionsLiberty.com, which I think is a worthy cause because then people get to come and hear the message of liberty, but various points of view that a particular demographic groups like, say, the pro-firearms group. I've created these memes that have some quote that I've said, and then I'll go post it on these things. And the big part of it, right, is down at the bottom in a very colorful thing. It says DaveChampionsLiberty.com. And people will come on. That Bill and I were joking at lunch. We call them the contrarians. They'll come on. Why is this man quoting himself? It's like, why do you care who said it? if it's something that you agree with and it's relevant and it's significant and it makes the point in a hard-hitting way, why would you condemn the guy saying it when you're the guy not speaking up? Why condemn the guy who's speaking up? Why is the guy who's not speaking up condemning the guy who is speaking up, right? Another example. I did 10 years of liberty-based radio. In the pinnacle of that, the end before I decided to move on and leave radio behind, I was doing a 2-hour show 5 days a week. Okay, that's a lot of radio time. And after that, I started doing the Dave Champion Show on television. That lasted for about 3.5 years until I decided I wanted to do the blog instead. I think it's a better way to get the message out to the public. Now, as you all know, if you've been watching this show, I wrote a book, Income Tax Shattering the Myths, which is, by many people's evaluation, the seminal work on the truth about the limited reach of the income tax. And people will write to me or go on some Facebook thread and they're like, why is he charging for this book? He's just a patriot for profit. Okay, so I did 13.5 years of a liberty-based show, never having made penny one, and as a matter of fact, paying out of my pocket to get the message out. But because I charged for my book, I'm a patriot for profit. And by the way, the people who are making that claim have never done anything for the cause of freedom or liberty in America. They just sat on their ass and done nothing. But they're going to point and criticize the other guy. I was talking to a guy the other day, and by the way, sometimes these comments come from people I really like, as case in point now. I was talking to a guy the other day, and Bill Carns came up in conversation. And I said, Bill Carns is very libertarian-minded. And he has done, in my estimation, a fantastic job of, with the Nye County Republican Party, trying to keep that organization within the bounds of Republican doctrine, but move it insofar as is possible to the libertarian point of view. Unfortunately, there's some people who are more about party politics, Republican, Democrat, than they are about liberty. And they don't want to hear about moving the organization towards greater liberty or more libertarian thought. All they want to do is, Republican, whatever the hell that means to them, right? That's all they want. Liberty, they don't give a shit about that. Yeah. I said, I think given the demographics of who Bill has had to work with, Bill has done a fabulous job of doing something that he thinks is important, and I share that with him. I think it's an important thing to do. And this guy says to me, now, this guy does not get off his duff and get involved in anything to make the world a better place. Okay. Politically speaking, I don't know if he contributes to charity or anything like that, so I want to be clear about that. But politically speaking, he doesn't get involved in anything. And he says, well, I don't respect what Bill's doing. What Bill needs to do is Bill needs to quit the Republican Party, and he needs to get with you, Dave Champion, and fire up the Libertarian Party. This thing where he's just staying where he can't accomplish his goals and trying to, if he's Libertarian, then what's he doing? He's screwing around. He's not taking the right steps. He's just get out of the Republican Party. And he went on and on this rant. And I thought, wow, that's some pretty strong language, some pretty strong sentiment from somebody who's not, by the way, he's very libertarian-minded too. Very strong language from somebody who's not doing it about somebody who is doing it. Now, Bill, leaving aside that I used you as part of the story, on the greater theme of people criticizing those who do when they're the ones who don't, what's your thought about that?
There's an old phrase that used to go something along the lines of, if you can't do, teach.
Yes.
And then my dad added, and if you can't teach, teach college. Funny enough.
Yes.
But now it is, if you can't do, or if you won't do, criticize. That's really what it is. If you won't do, criticize. That's what it's come to be. And I got to tell you, I am sick to death of having these people tell me, you know what you ought to do? You know what you should have said? You know what you should have, as far as I'm concerned, get off your own fat ass and make a contribution yourself. My days are so busy trying to accomplish various things. And there's so many times in my day I'm either focused on something or interrupted by something which leads towards the idea of liberty, freedom, getting government out of our lives, getting things efficient, that other people will try to advise me on, oh, I really think you ought to take another approach, or maybe you should look into this, or send me an email about something. And my response is this: if you have a great idea about something, you're volunteering to do it yourself.
Right.
You know, don't assign me your beliefs and your tasks. Don't do that. Get off your own fat ass and do it yourself. Because something tells me you got a little bit of time to burn.
Yeah, and you know, again, I'm not going to use any names, but the gentleman I was talking about, he's successful. Because he's successful, he has some latitude, some time that he could invest, and he's got no shortage of opinions. He has no shortage of theories on what you and what I should do to improve things.
Do I know this person?
You do.
Okay.
And I probably should have brought it up when we were having lunch, but I didn't.
Well, we'll bring it up at the break. I'll
I
tell
didn't
you what.
Think about it. You know, and it's. I understand that he doesn't mean it in a bad way. I don't think he even sees the dynamic that's at play. That he's ranting that Bill isn't doing things right. Bill should leave his position as the chair of the Nye County Republican Party and pick up the banner of the Libertarian Party and make something of it.
It'll never happen.
But but he doesn't understand. I don't think he even comprehends that there's nothing stopping him from doing it, but yet you're wrong for not having done it yourself.
Yeah, and you know, that's unfortunately the way some people look at things. And I got to tell you, just to clarify a little bit of stuff here when it comes to me in this story.
Of course, you know this will be the one and only Totally Unprepared he watches.
Yeah. And that's why I actually send him the link.
He'll recognize himself and be like, I used to like that Dave Champion guy.
Send him the link. You know, nameless, that's fine. But I have never been a member of any political party other than the Republican Party. At one short period of time, I had checked the inappropriate box, and for about 2 years, I wasn't any political party. I was nonpartisan. Until I realized that, and I'm like, I had moved to a new house. I guess it was about 18 months. I'm like, why didn't I? Oh my! I had to go re-register.
Oh, so it was literally checking the wrong box.
I literally checked the wrong box.
Okay.
And I was nonpartisan as opposed to Republican.
You didn't change your mind and it became the wrong box.
No,
okay.
no, I checked the wrong box. And that was when I moved from one place to another and
Gotcha.
I had to re-register. Anyhow, I have always been for the more foundational position that the Republican Party always used to stand for. Goldwater Republican, Reagan Republican, if you will. And the thing is we know that we have been infiltrated by literally people that used to be Democrats, because Democrats are now socialists and bordering as they're complete pinkos, really. And we see a lot of people falling off of the Democrat Party and coming to us. I get those phone calls every month or two. Hey, you know, I'm sick and tired of the Democrat Party. I'm really much more conservative, and I want to join up. I want to come in. I want to get involved. Hey, great. So what I have worked with, and it's not just me, it's the whole group, is to have the Nye County Republican Party more conservative than a lot of these mainstream thinking guys.
Whatever the hell conservative means anymore.
Well, okay.
Let me give you an idea.
Let's say small government, lower taxes, more personal liberty conservative.
Okay, just let me give you an example. Caitlyn Jenner claims she's a conservative Republican. So, but I think a lot of people would look at her and say, this could not. I have no problem with her characterizing herself as such, but there's a lot of people who they can barely choke those words out that she said that. Because the word conservative, I think, is one of the most maligned and abused and misused words probably in the last decade.
I have never spoke with either Caitlyn Jenner nor Bruce Jenner, so I have no idea how that would be qualified. But I do know that when Bruce Jenner did that interview with Diane Sawyer, is that who it was? Whatever. That I know that he said then that he's a conservative Republican and got absolutely roasted in social media for having said that.
Right. Well, here's an example. Somebody that I think you and I would blanch to hear him say he's a conservative Republican, and he would say it, Dick Cheney.
Yeah, and, you know, you got the Lindsey Grahams, the three worst people running for president right now. Lindsey Graham, Jeb Bush, and who else? Chris Christie.
Yeah, these guys are just neocons.
Yeah, absolutely horrible. They should literally be thrown out of the party. Yeah. My 2 cents.
There needs to be a mechanism for that, though.
Yeah, the thing is, though, is I don't even concentrate on. I really don't. I don't even concentrate on the presidential elections because this is a county party.
Oh, right.
Let the state, national deal that. We need to work on county
and at the
stuff,
national
so
level, they're out of their minds.
They are.
Yeah.
We'll be back. In contradiction to last week, I actually have something specific to rant about this week. Here we go. You know what really grinds my gears? Disingenuous people and actions. I'm really just sick of the way the world works now with this. It seems as though everybody is their own television attorney. It's not what I said or did, it's what you can prove. It's what the law says. It's not doing the right thing, it's doing as little as possible or as dirty as I can without actually having to pay the price for it. And that stuff drives me nuts. And even it's little things. I'll give you, for instance, when I travel, oftentimes I won't stay in hotels. I'll go someplace, I'll stay 3 or 4 days. And I'll go to like Vrbo, Vacation Rental by Owner, or any of the other number of sites that have that sort of thing. There's a bed and breakfast one and such. And you'll have like a day rate list, like every night it's, say, $79 to stay in this place. Then you want to stay, say, 3 nights, should be around $237. Then they hit you with a $170 cleaning fee. Plus, you either have to leave $2,000 security deposit, which you can get back within 10 to 14 days, or you got to spend another $70 on an insurance policy for your 3 days. Okay, well, now you're talking an extra $240 on top of your $237. So it's not staying for $79 a day, it's staying for $160 a day. A bait and switch, if you will. And that happens all the time. Reading the small print, having to hear what the attorney has to say about it. You know, Shakespeare was onto something when he said, kill all the attorneys first. It was a very interesting statement that they're going to change the way that we do things to the point where nobody has any personal accountability any longer. Nobody has any professional accountability any longer. And I think that's really where Shakespeare was going with it. Now, I'm not advising we go out and start whacking attorneys. Honestly, I don't know if we have enough ammo. There's a bunch of them out there right now. That being aside, it's just regular, everyday people. You know, I have 3 dogs, and it was about a year ago, 13 months ago, there was a lady who was watching my dogs while I was out of town, and my girlfriend was out of town. And she's watching our dogs, and we told her, you got to keep the 2 female dogs separated. Don't leave them together. Because when there's they get along fine at home. When there's other dogs around, and they're in they're in an unfamiliar place, they'll tangle. Don't do that. She knew that. We told her that. She'd watched these dogs 3 or 4 times. She had a small incident with them one time. I reminded her, don't do that. You can't do that. On this trip, after the first night, she calls me up and said, yeah, they had a little bit of a spat. And I said, you got to remember, you can't keep them together. 2 days later, I get a call. One of my dogs is so torn up by the other one, she needs to go to the vet for an emergency setup to get taken care of because the other dog tore her up. Because this woman left my 3 dogs in her house with the other dogs that she owns or are babysitting outside the house, and went and left for an hour and a half to go have breakfast and go shopping. Came home to a virtual mess. Then called me up, left a voicemail. I don't know what I was doing. I didn't get the call. Left a voicemail that, yeah, one of the dogs is a little bit beat up. She should be okay. What? It ended up being $1,200 at the vet. This is not just beat up. She should be okay. She was a disaster. Lost part of her ear. She was torn up. This woman's trying to downplay it. Then you know what she does? She sends me a bill for watching the dogs. How about that? It cost us, between my girlfriend having to travel home, lost wages, and going to the vet, close to $3,500 because this woman didn't pay attention, didn't listen to what we had told her, and short of me suing her, which is the only other thing I could have done, and I had thought about it. I thought about suing her because she doesn't actually have a license to watch and board the dogs, but I knew that going in, blah, blah, blah. I just thought that the gall to charge me and then tell me later when I wrote her a letter, say, look, I'm not going to pay this. If you want to sue me for it, I'll give you all the information to file the suit. But no, I may file my own as well. It's totally in your hands. From there, literally having a text battle, she's telling me it's my fault that in her house with dogs I told her how to handle, she didn't handle properly, and we're out about $3,500 over the long haul of this. I got to tell you, it's that sort of thing that just grinds my gears. Somebody tells me, yeah, I've got this, that, and the other. Come on down and pick it up. I go down there to go pick it up. Oh, yeah, I guess you did say that. No, I have this other thing. Really? That's the kind of thing that drives me nuts. Dave, I know you have taken issue with this ingenuous people and actions in businesses.
Oh,
am I off base here?
No, and not just in business. In my estimation, it has gotten so bad with people not being genuine that it's tough for people who are genuine because everybody is so busy trying to portray a false picture of themselves, trying to adjust who they are and what they say and how they say it so that there's no, this guy over here, or this gal over there, their feelings couldn't possibly hurt, so I'm gonna take down what I'm thinking down to this point where I'm barely even communicating anything worthwhile because I'm trying to make it so plain vanilla that nobody gets offended. That the person who's actually genuine and honest and straightforward and says what's on their mind is not a popular person anymore these days. And if I go back decades ago, America was not like this. That a man who called it like he sees it, a man who tells the truth, and I don't mean somebody who's offensive, I mean, who basically says, look, here's what went down. This is how it happened.
They have integrity about it.
This was your role in it. That was your role in it. This was my role in it. Now, let's evaluate. You did this, you did that, I did this. Let's get this down and call it what it was. That guy today is an outcast. 35 years ago, that was a man of integrity.
That was the norm.
That was somebody who others might look to as a leader. Today, well, get him out of here. He's being genuine and telling truth and speaking openly, and ooh, that's so bad. So
yeah, we need to BS each other more often to make it soft and cuddly. And instead of the turd you want to serve to me, I want a little bear that I can hug.
Right. I saw something the other day, a meme on social media, and it said something like,
you need to knock that off, man.
What's that?
Talking about memes and social media all the time.
Well, it's funny because sometimes memes are totally worthless, and other times in one sentence they distill down a core truth. and I think this one is very exemplary. I think it's a two-sentence thing. It said, she's found that one special, perfect love of her life for the third time in 2 years.
Yeah, that's it.
And but my point is, we see that all the time, that sort of thing, whether it's man, woman, it doesn't matter. But, but if you say to somebody, this is the third perfect love of your life in 2 years, you think maybe you're not handling your romantic life quite as well as you could. It's not like, wow, light bulb goes on. Yeah, it's, oh, I don't like that person anymore.
Yeah. But let me tell you, somebody who's close to me actually got married one year in October and posted, today I married the man of my dreams. They were divorced in July. So, yeah. And by the way, soulmates, let me tell you, this is soulmates. Here's one soul. Here's the mate. Okay? That soulmates.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, I think that that's kind of ridiculous in this day and age. Oh, we're soulmates. And the people that use these sort of terminologies are young people.
No, women.
Well, oftentimes women, but
I don't
younger.
think I've ever heard a man saying, "I'm out looking for my soulmate."
Yeah, okay. Even if it is women, they're usually younger. It's like, you haven't been around the block. You really don't have a lot of life experience here.
I know women in their 40s and 50s who are, I'm looking for my soulmate.
Okay, and how many times have they been divorced? Keep looking.
A minimum of once.
Keep looking, honey.
Minimum of once.
I worked with a girl years ago, more than 20 years ago, she was gorgeous, right? And she had a mother who was equally as gorgeous, who her mother lived in California. She came to Las Vegas and came into the workplace that we were at because they were there celebrating her 8th marriage. She just got married. She was in Vegas for her honeymoon. I'm like, all right, you've only been of marrying age for 24 years. You're averaging a marriage and a divorce every 3, if math serves me correctly.
Yeah.
You've got to be kidding. And who's the guy that says, oh, yeah, you got 7 ex-husbands? Sign me up.
Oh, dude, there's a guy, not going to name any names, in town, been playing around with some gal. You can bet how this story ends. This didn't happen 30 years ago, but it happens all the time now. He's playing around with her, and what happened? She got pregnant. Oh. Okay. It's so weird because in my day, go back to my teens and 20s, like 99.9999999% of you women knew how to use birth control. Today, none of you know how to use birth control.
Well, let me
finish the story, though.
Okay.
So he's playing with her for like a minute and a half. She comes up pregnant. Okay. What do I see next?
What, marriage?
They're engaged.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Now, wait a second. So I don't know who this gal is, right? So I do a little exploration. I find out she's already got a kid from another dude who's no longer around. Mm-hmm. But it's like as you said, how many times are you divorced? It's like, are we not seeing the pattern?
Yeah. Well, and I got to tell you, I mean, if
maybe that should be one of my
having
rants,
a
by the
kid
way.
or not having a kid, it should be decision on both. If I'm dating a woman that wants to have a kid, but I don't want to have a kid, tell you, birth control is on me. Or actions. Okay, start with abstinence. If that ain't going to work in this day and age, probably not going to work so much, then, there's so many different options before birth. That's been my issue with abortion, is that it is the post-realization of, we should have done something beforehand, and we didn't actually, we're adult enough to enter into the actions, but we didn't quite think enough that maybe we didn't want to have a baby. Let's go ahead and have an abortion. That's post-thought process, which I don't agree with.
On DaveChampionsLiberty.com, there's a blog issue about abortion, an article I wrote that a lot of people have found fascinating.
I like saying the word blog.
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 Where did this come from?
It's a fun word. Anyhow, we got a couple things to discuss
We do.
in segment 4, so we'll be back for that just right after these words. Welcome back! We're back from the commercials. I just wanted to wake you up. This is a chance in segment 4 where we go through what you want us to talk about. And you can always send us emails right here to daveandbillshow@gmail.com. And of course, you can always go online and see the shows that we've done. Yep. You can do audio, video, whatever it is. Go to totallyunprepared.info, and we have everything summed up there. We have a YouTube channel, we have a Facebook page, all that good stuff. So keep hitting us with this stuff. Of course, we talk weekly, it seems. Not a week goes by lately that we don't talk something about police abuse, police corruption, police abusing their authority of power. And of course, we get a fair amount of requests about it. Send us a YouTube video on this or some information on that. And
I have, by the way, viewers send me multiple videos of that police abuse every week.
Oh, yeah. And I got to say, Dave and I have both been in the industry. So we can both say to the effect of, this crap's out of control. It's really out of control. And only the cops can stop it. When one cop starts into something he should not be doing, it's up to the rest of the cops that show up, be it 1 or 50, to stop that person. to stop the cop that's going down the wrong scenic route. So this kind of comes up to where nobody was stopping anything. Now they're going to court in a case in Santa Ana, California.
Yeah. What happened was there was a legal marijuana dispensary in Santa Ana, California. And the cops got a warrant for not for what they were doing. Okay? And I think it was a misdemeanor warrant at that, if I remember the original story, because we're doing a follow-up to that.
Okay.
And they come in through some back door in the original video. They don't use the front customer door. And it's not a SWAT team, but they all come in, they're like stacked and they're doing their, they're slicing their various
It's probably
parts.
the local narcotics team.
Yeah. But more importantly, there's customers. There's like 6 customers in the business. They're proning all the customers out on the floor. Okay.
At gunpoint.
At gunpoint, right? Then...
And something tells me the customers weren't in the warrant.
Oh, this thing gets so bad. The cops, after they've secured for officer safety, and they're gathering whatever evidence they think they're gathering, they actually start eating some of the marijuana consumables on camera. Okay? Now, they don't know they're on camera because they got a step stool and they went around smashing every camera that they could see. They didn't know about the hidden camera. Okay, I believe there was 2 hidden cameras. So on these 2 hidden cameras, they're seen eating the product. They're seen mocking a handicapped person who could not get on the floor when they was ordered to get on the floor. And being generally abusive to everyone present. Okay. So you can guess the department's being sued. Pick it up from there.
Oh, yeah. The department is being sued. And now the police department, they're either responding to the suit or they're countersuing. That's a little unclear. Depends on where you read it. You didn't actually see the suit. They are claiming that because they were inside a private business and the cameras were on, that their reasonable right to privacy was violated. They expected a reasonable right to privacy, which is why they broke all the cameras they saw.
Okay.
But the hidden cameras what they recorded should be inadmissible in this civil suit.
Yeah.
Which, interesting enough, in civil suits, you don't get much thrown out. Almost anything can be thrown in there.
Right.
It's criminal suits where you get more stuff thrown out.
Yeah, it's hard to exclude evidence in a civil case.
It is.
Unless it's irrelevant.
You're right.
Okay. Now, but what's the bizarre concept about this? And this is one of these occasions where attorneys need to be sanctioned. Okay. I understand that part of being the job of an attorney is to make an argument in the best interest of your client. But arguments that are just a 6-year-old would know it's wrong deserve a sanction. Okay?
Maybe we should call that the 6-year-old aspect.
Yes, your 6-year-old sanction.
Yeah.
And to claim that public officials entering upon private property who then engage, now the audience may not understand this. I want to be clear. Police have absolutely no right when serving a warrant. It is outside the law. It is actually a criminal act to destroy the cameras. Okay? The cameras are not part of the warrant. If, let's say, they're serving we'll say it's a residence, okay, and they're looking for some computer records for embezzlement, okay, and there's cameras in the house. Those cameras have absolutely nothing to do with going into the house and getting the records for the embezzlement. Okay? The fact that there is now a video and perhaps audio record of what the enforcement agents do when they enter the home with a warrant and conduct the search and seize the evidence, which they're authorized to do, and leave. The fact there's a video and audio record of that, it's the property's owner to create that video audio record, and the cameras and the recording devices are the private property of the property owner. There is nothing in the law that allows, there's no sort of destruction of private property exemption for law enforcement. Oh, I've served this warrant, so let me destroy the cameras and the recording devices. It's a crime.
Yeah, if it's not specifically in the warrant, It is not legal to do.
Right, right.
So imagine if you or I go to a marijuana dispensary in California and we bust in the back door, point guns at people, prone them out, break their crap, and then eat their stuff. How many crimes do we have? Now, coming in through the back door, probably not a big deal. They could articulate officer safety for broning people out to an extent, although it's not right. To an extent, you can justify it. Or you can at least, other than get out.
Right.
You know, open their clothes, get out. That's the right response. So they can articulate it to a point. But then when we're talking about destruction of property, then theft. And on top of that, in California, consuming a prescription substance without a prescription, a felony. So we're talking felony, 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 or felony, misdemeanor, felony, depending on the value. Well, you're stealing prescription stuff, so felony, felony, felony.
Right.
And there's countersuing that, oh, well, the video that captured us doing that we should have a reasonable right to privacy over committing all of these felonies.
Here's what they're claiming. They're claiming that because they destroyed all the visible cameras, which was a criminal act in itself, they're claiming then that they have a reasonable expectation of privacy in somebody's private property because they didn't know there were hidden cameras. And the fact that the owner of the business did not disclose the hidden cameras after he just saw his other cameras being criminally destroyed, right? The fact that he didn't disclose on his private property that there were hidden cameras, then what was recorded by those hidden cameras should be inadmissible in the lawsuit against the officers.
Okay, and let's put this into a whole nother scenario here. There's a bank, and you and some of your friends decide to hit the bank. First thing you do is you go in there and you destroy the cameras, or you spray paint over the cameras. You rob the bank, you bail, you missed a couple cameras.
Right.
Because you didn't case it properly. And you're like, wait a minute. We should have a reasonable right to privacy going into this bank to rob it, so you can't use that against us, Mr. DA.
Exactly.
It's ridiculous. And I have to say, I absolutely agree with you on sanctioning attorneys who do ridiculous things. Tort reform should be all about that. This is my idea of how the legal system should be reformed in this country. If you want to file a suit against somebody, let's say a private suit, you want to sue somebody, your attorney writes up this suit. It goes in front of a 3-judge panel. The 3-judge panel looks at it and says, is there merit to the case? If there is, it goes on. If not, they kick it back. And however it turns out, the loser pays. If I sue you and the panel of judges says, yes, there's merit to this suit, we go in there, but I still lose and you win, I have to pay your attorney's fees and my attorney's fees. And the attorneys can't say, well, you only pay me if you win. None of that garbage.
Well, there is, not exactly as you described, but there is a system in place for that to happen. For instance, let's say you and I are suing one another, and you're the original petitioner to the court, okay? And I look at your basis for the suit, and I say, well, in Nevada, the court precedents in Nevada, 8 courts have said that the argument you're making is not valid, okay? So I go in and I say, I file a motion to dismiss based on these 8 precedents where other courts have said the same argument has no merit. Okay, 2 things should happen. Number 1, the judge should dismiss your case. And number 2, your attorney should get sanctioned because there were 8 existing cases saying it has no merit. That's how it's supposed to work. So it's not that there's no system in place. It's that it's broken. And I'll give you an example.
Yet again, a government system that's broken.
Hard to believe. Good friend of mine back in California, he now teaches history at a private, very high-end private boys' school. He was an attorney when I met him. And here's why he stopped practicing law. Because all of a sudden I find out that he's teaching history at a private boys' school. I'm like, Jamie, what's up with that? You know, this guy's 25 years as an attorney. He used to teach law. And he said, Dave, I couldn't do it with a good conscience anymore. I said, explain this to me, because he's an honest guy, right? He's not one of those kind of attorneys. He's honest. And he said, I gave a corporate client instructions about 12 years ago. I said, based on California decisional law that has been reasserted again and again and again and again and upheld, if you do this and you do this and you do these 3 things, and X occurs, you cannot be held civilly liable. Court precedent after precedent after precedent said if you do these three things and X occurs, you cannot be sued. So 12 years later, X occurs, and the person who believed they were injured sues the company. This should be a slam dunk, yes?
Should be.
Jamie says this was the moment that he decided he was no longer going to practice law. He walked into the courtroom. He had filed a motion, and they walked in, and he's expecting the judge to dismiss, and the judge does not immediately dismiss. He says, Your Honor, and now they start discussing the motion. And so Jamie recounts all of these precedents, and he says that the judicial opinions in this circuit within our court system is concrete. This case must be dismissed. He says the judge looked at him and said, not in my court, not today. So he said 12 years of advice based on multiple decisions of the courts, all synonymous, all saying the same thing. On that day in court, none of that counted because the judge wanted the case to move forward.
Judges, unfortunately, for some reason or another, seem to be able to write their own rules in their own courtroom. They don't seem to be held accountable to anything other than some panel of judicial review if you file a complaint. And it had better be a big deal for them to have any, otherwise they just say, yeah, if you don't like it, appeal me. So we're wasting all of this time.
Yeah.
You know, it's ridiculous.
At least as far as fundamental rights are concerned. I mean, I understand the law there's some gray areas in the law, don't get me wrong. But as far as fundamental rights are concerned, there needs to be some accountability for judges just like every other aspect of government, which
there should
is
be.
Also lacking.
Yeah, and that's why it all needs to be reformed. Thanks for sticking around. We'll see you next time.
Take care.